Hi, I'm Steve Gideon, a professor at one of the largest entrepreneurship programs in the world at the Ted Rogers School of Management at Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada. But today I'm coming from Palazzo Mastelli, built in 1070 AD and where I lived back in the 1900s while I worked for Tema of Centro Ricerca Venezia. Today I'm going to be talking about the Venetian Republic and the lemonade principle. So get your bauta on, your tre cornice, be ready for Carnevale to discuss the lemonade principle. Hard to believe I lived here in Palazzo Mastelli on Campo di Mori in the region of Cannareggio in Venice. Oh, it was over 35 years ago. I worked for Tema of Centro Ricerca Venezia at Nuova Samim, which is one of the largest materials producer in the world, part of the Gruppo Eni. You may have seen Ajip, the six-legged fire-breathing dog with the big yellow background. Ajip is the petrochemical side. I worked for Nuova Samim, the materials producing side. But I really learned a lot about the Venetian Empire during my years living in Venice. After the fall of the Roman Empire in about the 5th century AD, the Huns, the Visigoths, the Lombards had really overrun northern Italy. And the people of northern Italy really had to flee from these invaders. They were afraid for their lives. They were basically refugees, and they moved into a swamp in the Venetian lagoon. A swamp. They had to sink big pieces of like telephone poles, wood that they would soak in grappa in order to keep the wood from dissolving. And they would sink hundreds of thousands of these pieces of like telephone pole into the muck in the lagoons in Venice in order to basically flee these invaders. It took grit, resiliency, and tenacity and perseverance in order to build the city of Venice. But what a beautiful city they built. This refugee population fleeing from invaders built amazing bridges like the Rialto Bridge. They built amazing palaces like the Palazzo Ducale, where the Doge lived. They also built, after a plague, in order to thank the Lord for protecting them from the plague, Santa Maria della Salute. Over 300,000 telephone pole-sized tree trunks were sunk into the mud of the lagoon in order to build this building on top of it. It really took an amazing resiliency in turning lemons into lemonade for the Venetian Republic to prosper. But for over 1,300 years, they built one of the greatest empires on the face of the planet. They had good governance. Instead of being under an oppressive authoritarian rule from the Catholic Church or the Papal States or a bishop or some monarch, they built a Repubblica. La Serenissima Repubblica. And they had trade. Not only did they have good governance, but they had good trade with their neighbors. They had good trade with the Orient, they had good trade with the Middle East, and all up and down the Adriatic Sea and into Greece and the Byzantine Empire that they traded. Created tremendous prosperity for the Venetian people. So sometimes turning lemons into lemonade can work. That they changed from being a refugee population to building one of the greatest, most prosperous, good governance empires on the face of the planet, at least until Napoleon rolled in the 1800s. So what have we discovered so far? We've discovered the difference between planning and search-based methodologies. In planning-based methods, you want to avoid surprise. You want to avoid unexpected circumstances. On the search side of things, you embrace serendipity. You embrace surprise. You look for surprise. Surprise gives you sources of competitive advantage. You're trying to look for the unexpected to find new insights. You've started working on your portfolio of career design challenges. You've got a series of challenges related to employment or entrepreneurship and jobs, related to side hustles or startups or building your human capital, your knowledge, skills, and attitudes outside of your job. You've got some design challenges related to social capital development and possibly some volunteer positions. Should have some design challenges related to personal growth, character and habit formation, as well as balance in your life. We've talked about a wide variety of tools in order to meet these challenges, but you're probably starting to run into some hurdles. You're starting to experience some lemons while you're out there looking for solutions to your design challenges. So it's time for entrepreneurial principle number 6, the lemonade principle. Causal planning seeks to avoid surprise, and they desire predictability, known and controllable events. Effectual thinking, on the other hand, seeks to leverage and find surprises. We desire the unexpected. We desire the unknown, the new. Serendipity is our friend. We look for extreme users. We're looking for non-users. We're looking for workarounds, which I'll talk about in a minute. You've probably heard the expression, when life gives you lemons, turn it into lemonade. That's certainly true. And it's certainly true that the Venetian Empire turned lemons into lemonade. But don't think of this principle as only trying to overcome bad things. You're not just trying to seek to avoid the bad. You're trying to find surprises. You're actively going out of your way to look for serendipity. Not all surprises are bad. These surprises can be inputs used to discover insights and opportunities. As Alexander Graham Bell once said, when one door closes, another opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door that we don't see the other one that just opened right in front of you. Thomas Edison, inventor of the light bulb, once said, "I have not failed. I've found 1,000 ways that just didn't work yet." And he knew that the more ways he discovered that didn't work, the closer he was to discovering the one way that did work. But more importantly, these 1,000 failures provided barriers to entry to somebody else. Hundreds of people were trying to invent the light bulb when Thomas Edison was the first to really hit upon the success. But they didn't have laboratories, and they didn't have staff full of people, and they didn't have thousands of experiments to show what didn't work. So when he did finally discover the one way that did work, he had tremendous barriers to entry to prevent his possible competitors. So when you're out there looking for signals in this environment, when you're out there looking for sources of surprises, don't assume you know everything. Look for the hidden aspect underneath the iceberg. Reality will surprise you. The Japanese have a saying, the shoshin philosophy, which is the beginner's mind, that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. The expert thinks they know everything. So look at the world with fresh eyes and curiosity to be amazed at the surprises and the unexpected. Let me give you an example of how this can apply to a specific user-centric design methodology. We had a project at the Straschik Center in Germany where we were trying to come up with a new clothes hanger. We were working for a clothes hanger company that had over 1,000 patents related to clothes hangers. And our students thought, how can we possibly come up with a new use of a clothes hanger? We went out and talked to people and asked them, tell us about the way you hang clothes. And they told us kind of what we already knew. They wash their clothes, they put their clothes on a clothes hanger, they put it in the closet, they wear it, they put it in the hamper, they wash the clothes, and the cycle repeats. We didn't discover anything. We didn't discover any surprises. We asked people how they use clothes hangers, and they told us what everybody knows about using clothes hangers. But then we went out and tried to find out what was really going on in reality. We didn't believe what they told us. We said, show us. So we went to people's homes and said, hey, can we stop by and maybe catch up? Go see a friend, maybe bring a six-pack or something. And as soon as the friend gets up to go to the bathroom or something, run into the bedroom, click, 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 click. And guess what we found? People didn't hang their clothes up. They left their clothes laying all over the place. Example after example of people leaving their clothes laying on their bed, laying on the floor. I like this one. You'll notice there's a clothes hanger hanging off of the bedpost in the corner here while their clothes are strewed all over the place. And on it goes. And what I didn't realize at the time was, oh my God, I have these places for clothes in my life as well too. That sure, I hang everything up, but sometimes I'll get home at the end of the day, kind of check out a quick niff and say, actually, this isn't so bad. I can wear this again. And I've got this spot hanging off of my bathtub where I hang or drape all my sweatpants, clothes, underwear that I can wear again a second day, clothes that maybe I don't want to wear to work, but maybe I can wear to work out in or something like that. And we discovered by surprise that a lot of people have this. And we looked at a variety of different ways that people hung up their clothes, and we looked for workarounds. Here's an example of a great workaround that we found. Anybody know what's going on here? They weren't just trying to find a place to hang their clothes because they had clothes hangers. But if you ask why are you doing this, what you quickly discover is that for soft fabrics like sweaters and pullovers and things like that, if you hang them on a hanger, you get these weird things on the shoulders, but where the coat hanger kind of sort of sticks out. And so to avoid that, you kind of sort of find other ways to drape your sweater so that you don't create these weird bulges. Aha, there's an insight that we hadn't known going in. We were surprised. Looking for these workarounds is always an important clue. Here's another example that's quite common on the internet, that the government wants you to stop and dismount your bike and go through this little metal pen here, but guess what everybody does? They just ride around it. The actual users know better than to do what the kind of sort of authorities are trying to tell you to do. Look for these workarounds. This kind of goes back to this idea of the hunting with follow the paths that people actually create. Don't go where you think that they go where they actually go. Here's a great path that the animals have worn as clues for you to follow. Now, finding these insights, finding these surprises are a good source of competitive advantage, a good source of barriers to entry. Very often we have what's called the rule of three, that it takes 3 tries before your product kind of works. Even the mighty Microsoft, when they were switching from DOS to Windows, took until version 3.1 before the world switched from DOS, which was a horrible system, to Windows 3.1. And this was Bill Gates and Microsoft with billions of dollars, and it took them 3 tries to get Windows right. Some might say they're still trying to get Windows right. Or let's look at Steve Jobs and Apple, that the first iPad that he created was called the Newton, and it won the Worst Product of the Year award. It was a terrible product. I had one once, and I couldn't even give it away. I kept having these competitions, and the winner would win a Newton, and the students would say, I don't want your free Newton, thank you very much. Now, of course, that the iPad and iPhone are out there, everyone can't imagine Apple being a struggling organization. But at one time, Apple was on the brink of bankruptcy, and the US federal government went to Microsoft and said, Microsoft, if you don't give Apple $250 million to keep them on life support, we're going to crush you under the boot heel of the federal government and break you into a bunch of little baby Microsofts. That's how bad Apple was. Microsoft complied. They gave them $250 million to keep them on life support. And I think Microsoft probably made a bundle on that one. Lucky them. The key here is embrace the challenge. Live long enough and bootstrap, using the affordable loss principle from last week, use the affordable loss principle to survive long enough to get to version 3 and erect these barriers to entry. There's a lot of great entrepreneurial skills that come associated with this lemonade principle. There's the entrepreneurial skills and attitudes of grit, resiliency, perseverance, tenacity. Think of the Venetian Empire again, that rather than being refugees and surrendering to the Huns, that they instead went to a swamp and built one of the greatest cities on the face of the planet and erected an empire that lasted for over 1,000 years. The United States has only been around for 200 years, and they think they're the greatest empire. Venice was around for 5 times longer than that. Other entrepreneurial skills and attitudes include curiosity, wonderment, surprise, serendipity. Another one I'd like to talk about is anti-fragility and positivity. As I show here, we tend to think of fragility being on a scale from things either being fragile and snapping and breaking easily, or else being tough or resilient, that if you bend them, they're tough, they don't break right away. That we go from fragile to tough. But my friend Bill Ouellette at MIT came up with a new idea saying, actually the scale goes all the way up to 11, from fragility to toughness to anti-fragility. Toughness says you bend and you kind of sort of comply with what the external environment does. Anti-fragility says, I'm going to fight back. You're going to try to break me, I'm going to break you. A competitor enters my competitive space, I'm going to create something that's so amazing it's going to put that competitor out of business. I'm not just tough, I'm not just resilient, I don't have just tenacity, but I'm anti-fragile. That these are people who grow when exposed to volatility, randomness, and disorder, and stressors. They love adventure, they love risk, and they love uncertainty. Adversity is an opportunity that makes us stronger. As Conan once said, that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So we've got a couple of assignments this week based on the lemonade principle. We have a tool called reframing failure and another one called the anti-fragility tool that you'll be working on this week. So what have we learned? Well, we learned a little bit about the Venetian Empire that you've probably never heard of before, in La Serenissima Repubblica. And we talked about the lemonade principle, principle number 6. We talked about that it's not just avoiding the bad or turning bad into good, but embracing serendipity, embracing the unexpected, embracing surprise, embracing the hard and the difficult, because this is what gives you barriers to entry. We gave you a couple of principles, and the application of these principles help you develop your skills and your attitudes. It's just like playing the guitar, that you have to practice your scales. We can teach you the principle of the scales, but at the end of the day, you have to grow your own skills by practicing those things. And so you don't get grit, tenacity, and perseverance just because you wanted to read a book about it. You kind of have to suffer through adversity. Everybody wants grit, but nobody wants to fall down and get back up and fall back down and get back up in order to earn their grit and tenacity. We also gave you a couple of assignments related to reframing failure and anti-fragility. So, on the topic of playing the guitar and growing your calluses and applying those principles in order to develop your skills and attitudes, remember, crank it up to 11.